beneath the crushing silence of the world's deepest trenches, where sunlight has never dared to wander, there exists a world more alien than any planet in the night sky. Here, black towers rise from the ocean floor, not of stone or steel, but of fire and smoke-belching clouds of minerals that shimmer like breath from Earth's molten heart. Around them, in a realm of eternal night, life not only survives, it thrives, creatures feeding on poison, weaving existence from darkness itself. This is not science fiction. This is the Mariana Trench, and it hides truths about our planet that are stranger, more beautiful, and more terrifying than we could ever imagine. Like, share, and subscribe, because today we journey into the abyss, where Earth itself whispers through smoke and flame. The surface is a lie. It shimmers with color, with warmth, with a light that makes the world seem alive and whole. But as we drift downward, leaving behind the dancing reflections of sunlit waves, the truth of the ocean begins to reveal itself. The light thins into a dim blur, then into a gray haze, until finally it collapses into nothing at all. The sea becomes endless black. Pressure mounts with every meter, a weight invisible yet absolute. At 100 meters, your ears ache. At 500, your chest feels a phantom hand pressing inward. At 1,000, the hand becomes a vice. By the time we descend to 10,000 meters, the deepest gash in Earth's crust, the pressure is so immense it could crush steel as if it were parchment. This is the Mariana Trench, a scar torn into the planet's skin, stretching nearly 7 miles down. To enter it is to trespass into a realm where the laws of survival are rewritten. The trench is silent in a way the human mind cannot fully grasp. On land, even in stillness, there's the hum of insects, the whisper of wind. But here, the silence is thick and suffocating, broken only by the occasional crackle of shifting rocks or the groan of tectonic plates grinding deep beneath the seafloor. It feels less like entering water and more like entering a tomb. And yet, the abyss is not empty. Its vast walls rise like mountains. Its valleys stretch wider than canyons carved by rivers. Darkness cloaks everything, but with it comes a raw sense of wonder. This is not the ocean we know. It is a different planet altogether, hidden beneath the familiar skin of Earth. The sheer magnitude of the trench humbles us. Here, humanity is a trespasser, a fragile guest suspended in a void that has existed long before us and will endure long after we are gone. We descend farther still. Beams of artificial light sweep across the emptiness, revealing fleeting glimpses. A jellyfish with a bell-like glass, glowing faintly with its own inner lantern. A squid with arms stretching like ribbons into the black. Particles drifting like stars caught in a slow-motion galaxy. Each creature drifts alone, scattered across the emptiness, as if the deep sea has reduced life to solitary sparks in a desert of night. But the deeper we travel, the stranger it becomes. The walls of the trench grow steeper, ridges sharper, the seafloor more jagged. It is a world shaped by violent volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, and collisions that tore the crust apart. Each cliff face is a monument to Earth's restless heart, each fissure a reminder of the planet's unending hunger to change, to consume, to rebuild. And then, in the dark, something unexpected. Movement, rapid, darting like a shadow passing through the edge of light. Creatures adapted to this abyss carry secrets in their very bodies. Transparent skin, enormous eyes, luminous organs. They are built to endure the crushing silence, to thrive where life should not. They remind us that survival is not always about resisting. Sometimes it is about surrendering, bending to the impossible, becoming something new. The trench, for all its terror, is not a void. It is a cradle. Its black waters do not merely crush, they shape. They forge life in ways unimaginable at the surface. Every organism here is a living question. How far can life stretch before it breaks? How many rules of biology can be rewritten before the story changes entirely? The deeper we sink, the more fragile we feel. Our machines hum against the weight, but even steel fears this darkness. For humans, the trench is not just a descent into water, it is a descent into insignificance. Each passing meter reminds us of our limits, our fragility, and the unfathomable resilience of the life that has claimed this abyss as its home. We are now far below the reach of sunlight. The trench swallows every ray, every memory of warmth. What remains is only the glow of our lamps and the knowledge that we are plunging into a place more alien than Mars, more hostile than the vacuum of space. Here, in the deepest cut of our own planet, we confront a paradox. The farther we move from the sun, the closer we come to the Earth's burning heart. And ahead lies the true secret of the abyss towers of fire and smoke, black chimneys rising from the seafloor. But for now, they remain hidden in the distance, cloaked by miles of darkness. We have only begun our descent. The abyss does not reveal itself all at once. It unfolds slowly, like a secret reluctant to be spoken. Each kilometer downward peels back another layer of mystery. Above us, the surface world feels impossibly far away, its storms, its waves, its sunlit skies reduced to memory. Here, nothing moves fast. The darkness stretches in all directions, swallowing time, swallowing thought, until the mind itself begins to drift like the scattered plankton falling from far above. Scientists call this drifting rain marine snow. Tiny fragments of dead fish, decaying plankton, and microscopic skeletons sink endlessly from the surface, falling for weeks, months, even years before reaching these depths. Down here is both curse and blessing, the only gift the abyss receives from the world above. For some, it is a lifeline, a dusting of nourishment in a desert of pressure and cold. For others, it is not enough. The abyss has forced its inhabitants to invent new ways to live or die. Our lights sweep through the void again, and something drifts across their beams. A giant amphipod, its transparent body delicate as glass, yet strong enough to endure pressures that would shatter a submarine. Its antennae twitch, searching the water for invisible signals. Nearby, a siphonophore extends its body like a living ribbon, glowing with faint pulsing light. It stretches longer than a blue whale, yet as fragile as lace, a colony of creatures masquerading as one. Every life form here carries the strangeness of invention, survival etched into every bone, every cell. But for every glimpse of life, there is the weight of silence. The trench walls press inward. The seafloor lies deeper still, hidden beyond our reach for now. The void gives us only fragments, as though rationing its wonders, reminding us that it is the ocean that decides what we are allowed to see. The human presence here is temporary. Our submersible groans as if alive, its hull straining against the weight of the sea. The lights flicker, swallowed almost instantly by the blackness, a reminder that we are intruders. Every piece of technology, every inch of steel and glass, is fragile. If even the smallest flaw exists, the trench will find it. Down here, there are no second chances. And yet, this is what draws us closer. The abyss demands humility. It strips away the illusions of control that we carry on the surface. It does not care about our inventions, our cities, our power. In the trench, humanity is a single breath, balanced on the edge of eternity. As the descent continues, shapes flicker again at the edge of light small fish with needle-like teeth, eyes glowing like twin stars. They hover motionless, conserving every fragment of energy, their bodies tuned for efficiency in a world that offers almost nothing. Their jaws, however, are merciless. When opportunity arrives, when a piece of marine snow drifts close, or when a weaker creature strays into range, they strike with speed, because hesitation means starvation. The deeper we go, the more alien these lives become. We pass creatures with organs that shimmer like lanterns, producing light from within their own cells. bioluminescence, and alchemy of survival. Down here, light is not just vision. It is communication, camouflage, a weapon. To glow is to exist. To glow is to claim a place in the blackest desert on Earth. In this emptiness, even the smallest light feels holy. A single spark can draw predators from far away, a beacon in the darkness. It is dangerous, but it is also necessary. Life here exists on the edge of contradiction, fragile but enduring, rare but stubborn. As our descent slows, the trench deepens into vast plains broken by cliffs and ridges. Geologists call them fault scarps, evidence of Earth's violent movements, where tectonic plates grind and collide. These walls are not silent. They remember. They carry the scars of eruptions, the collapse of rock, the shifting of entire continents. To touch them would be to touch history itself, written not in ink, but in stone and pressure. And still, we are far from the bottom. The true floor of the Mariana lies more than 11,000 meters down, deeper than Mount Everest is tall. Few have ever seen it. Fewer still have touched it. It is a destination wrapped in silence, but it is not the only secret here. Somewhere in this endless dark, hidden from our lights, rise the black smoker's volcanic chimneys that will transform this abyss from desert to oasis. But for now, we drift through the in-between, a place where silence reigns, where every sound is swallowed whole, and where even our presence feels uncertain, like a dream half-remembered. The abyss is patient. It waits. The deeper we fall, the more the ocean feels alive, not with movement or sound, but with weight. Pressure folds around us like an invisible cloak, a constant reminder of where we are and how unwelcome we remain. At these depths, the human body would collapse in an instant, bones snapping, lungs imploding. Only the thin shell of steel and glass between us and the abyss holds the darkness at bay. And even that feels temporary, as though the trench could claim us with the smallest gesture. The beam of our lights brushes against the walls of the trench again, and this time we see something extraordinary. Towering cliffs loom overhead, their faces carved not by wind or rain but by the grinding of tectonic plates. They stretch upward into the blackness, beyond the reach of our gaze, a cathedral of stone shaped by forces older than the continents themselves. In their jagged faces, minerals glimmer faintly, catching the beams like stars scattered across rock. For a moment, the abyss feels less like emptiness and more like a galaxy turned inside out. And then, drifting from the shadows, comes a creature that seems woven from nightmares, the anglerfish. Its body is a silhouette of darkness, but from its head extends a luminous lure, glowing faintly like a candle in the void. That single point of light is both trap and weapon, drawing the curious and the desperate closer until its jaws snap shut. Its teeth are long, curved, transparent, needles designed for a single purpose, to hold whatever dares approach. The anglerfish is proof that survival here demands deception, invention, even cruelty. In the abyss, beauty and terror are always one. We continue downward, and the trench grows stranger still. The water itself seems thicker, heavier, as though time has slowed. The creatures we see are fewer now, but each carries an intensity of design that defies imagination. A deep-sea dragonfish glides past, its body lined with photophores that glow like constellations across its scales. It opens its jaws, revealing fangs so long they cannot fit inside its mouth. To see it is to understand that evolution here is not about elegance, it is about extremity. Every adaptation is a bargain with death. The silence presses harder. Our submersible creaks under the weight, every groan echoing like a warning. The trench does not roar or rage. It whispers. It reminds us that it is patient, eternal, indifferent. We are the fragile ones, trespassers tracing paths through its eternal night. And yet there is wonder even in this hostility. When our lights dim, we catch fleeting bursts of bioluminescence, tiny flashes like fireworks in slow motion. They appear, fade, and vanish again into the dark. Each glow is a signal, a message passed between creatures we cannot see. It is a secret language written in sparks, spoken in silence. Down here, communication is survival. To glow is to warn, to seduce, to deceive. Hours into the descent, fatigue grips us, though the body does not feel it in the usual way. It is not the ache of muscles or the weight of exhaustion, but a kind of mental unraveling. The trench bends perception. With no horizon, no sun, no sense of time, minutes feel like hours, hours like days. The mind searches for anchors, but there are none. Only the endless black and the knowledge that deeper secrets still await. The deeper we fall, the more the ocean feels alive, not with movement or sound, but with weight. Pressure folds around us like an invisible cloak, a constant reminder of where we are and how unwelcome we remain. At these depths, the human body would collapse in an instant, bones snapping, lungs imploding. Only the thin shell of steel and glass between us and the abyss holds the darkness at bay. And even that feels temporary, as though the trench could claim us with the smallest gesture. The beam of our lights brushes against the walls of the trench again, and this time we see something extraordinary. Towering cliffs loom overhead, their faces carved not by wind or rain but by the grinding of tectonic plates. They stretch upward into the blackness, beyond the reach of our gaze, a cathedral of stone shaped by forces older than the continents themselves. In their jagged faces, minerals glimmer faintly, catching the beams like stars scattered across rock. For a moment, the abyss feels less like emptiness and more like a galaxy turned inside out. And then, drifting from the shadows, comes a creature that seems woven from nightmares, the anglerfish. Its body is a silhouette of darkness, but from its head extends a luminous lure, glowing faintly like a candle in the void. That single point of light is both trap and weapon, drawing the curious and the desperate closer until its jaws snap shut. Its teeth are long, curved, transparent, needles designed for a single purpose, to hold whatever dares approach. The anglerfish is proof that survival here demands deception, invention, even cruelty. In the abyss, beauty and terror are always one. We continue downward, and the trench grows stranger still. The water itself seems thicker, heavier, as though time has slowed. The creatures we see are fewer now, but each carries an intensity of design that defies imagination. A deep-sea dragonfish glides past, its body lined with photophores that glow like constellations across its scales. It opens its jaws, revealing fangs so long they cannot fit inside its mouth. To see it is to understand that evolution here is not about elegance, it is about extremity. Every adaptation is a bargain with death. The silence presses harder. Our submersible creaks under the weight, every groan echoing like a warning. The trench does not roar or rage, it whispers. It reminds us that it is patient, eternal, indifferent. We are the fragile ones, trespassers tracing paths through its eternal night. And yet, there is wonder even in this hostility. When our lights dim, we catch fleeting bursts of bioluminescence, tiny flashes like fireworks in slow motion. They appear, fade, and vanish again into the dark. Each glow is a signal, a message passed between creatures we cannot see. It is a secret language written in sparks, spoken in silence. Down here, communication is survival. To glow is to warn, to seduce, to deceive. Hours into the descent, fatigue grips us, though the body does not feel it in the usual way. It is not the ache of muscles or the weight of exhaustion, but a kind of mental unraveling. The trench bends perception. With no horizon, no sun, no sense of time, minutes feel like hours, hours like days. The mind searches for anchors, but there are none. Only the endless black and the knowledge that deeper secrets still await. At last, our instruments begin to register a shift. The water temperature dips sharply, and the sensors twitch with faint traces of chemistry, hydrogen sulfide, methane, minerals rising from the seafloor far below. Though we cannot yet see it, something stirs beneath us. The earth itself is breathing. In that moment, anticipation sharpens. The abyss has been long and silent, but now it hints at revelation. Somewhere below, cloaked in shadow, the black smokers wait chimneys of fire in a kingdom of ice, rising like towers from the seafloor. They are close, but not yet visible, hidden behind the miles of water that still separate us. For now, we drift in darkness, held between worlds, the emptiness above and the fury of the earth below. This is the liminal space of the trench, the quiet before the revelation. We are no longer on the surface, no longer in the realm of light. But we have not yet reached the furnace at the bottom of the sea. The abyss holds its breath, and so do we. The abyss tests patience as much as courage. Hours blur together, each minute marked only by the steady hum of machinery and the relentless weight pressing against the submersible's frame. Outside, the ocean is a wall of blackness, pierced only by the cones of our lamps. It feels as if we are falling forever, with no end, no destination, only descent. But then, subtle changes begin to emerge. The water grows restless, carrying faint currents we could not feel before. Tiny particles drift past in thicker clouds, swirling as though stirred by something unseen. Our sensors confirm what our instincts already whisper. The seafloor is drawing near. Somewhere below, the trench floor stretches in silence, holding mysteries that have waited millennia for the brief touch of human light. The first glimpse comes not as a sight but as a sound. A low, distant rumble, muffled by miles of water, like the groan of earth itself. It reverberates through the hull, soft yet inescapable, a vibration that seems to echo in the bones. The trench is not silent after all. It breathes, it moves, it remembers. Moments later, the lamps sweep across the seafloor, and the world changes. The ground here is not smooth sand but jagged rock, fractured and scarred, as though the planet itself split open. Fissures snake across the landscape, steaming faintly, releasing chemical whispers into the water. The terrain is harsh, violent, alien. Every ridge, every crack is a reminder that the trench is not merely a passive grave of pressure and darkness. It is alive, restless, forged by fire and time. And yet, amid this violence, the impossible appears. Rising from the seafloor are faint columns of smoke, drifting upward in curling plumes. At first, they seem like shadows, tricks of the light. But as we drift closer, the truth reveals itself. These are the black smokers' chimneys of mineral and stone, belching clouds of superheated fluid into the abyss. They are taller than buildings, reaching 20, 30, sometimes 40 meters into the water. Their surfaces shimmer with crystals of iron and copper, shining like frost against the black. From their mouths pours darkness, not the absence of light, but a thick mineral smoke, a storm of particles so dense it clouds the sea around them. Each plume is hotter than boiling water, yet it does not boil, held under the crushing pressure of the deep. To see them is to stand before a contradiction. Fire and smoke, born in a place without flame. Around them, the water churns with life. Tiny organisms swirl in the chemical storm, invisible to the naked eye, but essential to everything that follows. They consume the minerals, transform them, turn poison into energy. They are the architects of this alien oasis. Without them, the black smokers would be barren towers. With them, they are the foundation of an entire ecosystem. Our lights reveal movement on the rocks nearby. Strange forms cling to the chimney's tube worms with blood-red plumes waving in the currents, their white bodies rooted in the mineral crust. Blind shrimp crawl in swarms, their backs glowing faintly as they feed. Ghostly crabs pick their way across the smoking stone, scavenging in the shadows. It is a spectacle of survival, a miracle carved from fire and darkness. For the first time since the descent began, the abyss feels alive, not in fragments or sparks, but in abundance. It is a place of creation as much as destruction, a paradox sustained by Earth's hidden breath. Here, life does not wait for sunlight. It does not bend to the rules of the surface. It writes its own laws in the language of chemistry and heat. We watch in silence, awed and unsettled. These black towers, spewing poison, could easily be mistaken for monuments of death. Instead, they are fountains of life. They are a reminder that Earth is not what we think it is. It is stranger, harsher, more inventive than our imagination allows. The abyss has revealed its first great secret, but it is not the last. Beyond these chimneys lies an entire kingdom of alien creatures, each more improbable than the last, each rewriting our understanding of what it means to live. The descent is over, but the true journey has only just begun. They rise from the seafloor like ancient monuments, blackened towers born not of stone or coral, but of fire itself. The black smokers. At first glance, they appear almost ghostly columns spewing clouds of darkness, their plumes twisting and curling as though alive. Yet these clouds are not smoke in the human sense. They are superheated water, infused with minerals and chemicals drawn from the molten heart of the planet. It begins far below, where seawater seeps into cracks in the Earth's crust. There, deep in the mantle's furnace, the water is heated to extremes, infused with metals and gases, and forced back upward with violent pressure. When it bursts into the ocean, it does not erupt in flame. It exhales in black clouds, clouds so thick they stain the water like ink. These chimneys, some taller than buildings, are the planet's vents, its hidden lungs, where the Earth itself breathes into the sea. To approach them is to enter a paradox. The water billowing from their mouths is hotter than boiling point, yet under the immense weight of the trench, it does not boil. Instead, it flows outward, spreading clouds of shimmering particles that drift upward like smoke from an invisible fire. Around the base of the chimneys, minerals crystallize and harden, building the towers higher with every breath. Over time, the smokers grow, collapse, and rise again, living architectures sculpted by Earth's restless heart. The sight is both mesmerizing and terrifying. Imagine standing in utter darkness, surrounded by crushing silence, only to see towers belching shadows into the sea. They glow faintly where minerals catch the light, their plumes twisting in currents like banners torn from an unseen war. It feels less like a natural formation and more like the ruins of some alien civilization, a city of chimneys forgotten by time. And yet, amid the violence, something miraculous occurs. Life gathers here. In the very plumes that should poison and destroy, creatures find sustenance. The chemicals spewed into the water, hydrogen sulfide, methane, metals, are transformed into food by microscopic architects. These are the chemosynthetic bacteria, invisible to the human eye but mighty in their influence. They turn death into life, smoke into sustenance. Without them, the smokers would be barren. With them, they are gardens in the abyss. The first to appear are the pioneers, mats of bacteria carpeting the rocks, their colonies glowing faintly under the beams of our lamps. Then come the host creatures that depend on these bacteria, not by consuming them, but by partnering with them. Giant tube worms stretch toward the plumes, their blood-red plumes swaying in the chemical currents. They carry no mouth, no stomach, no digestive tract. Instead, inside their bodies live millions of bacteria, transforming toxins into nourishment. The worms are the chimney's guardians, rooted to the stone, reaching ever upward as though in silent prayer to the blackened towers. Closer still, blind shrimp swarm across the smoking rocks. They crawl in the darkness with eyes that see not light, but heat, detecting the faint infrared glow of the chimneys. Their shells glisten like frost under the lamps, each step a dance along the edge of survival. Ghost crabs pick their way among them, their pale bodies glowing faintly as they scavenge from the mineral-rich chaos. It is an oasis in every sense of the word. Beyond the smokers, the trench remains a desert silent, barren, inhospitable. But here, within the storm, life flourishes in abundance, creatures clustering together in a kingdom built on fire and poison. It is as though the abyss itself conspired to remind us, even in its harshest corners, Earth refuses to surrender. The paradox deepens. For while these chimneys spew poison, they also carry memory. The minerals they exhale are not random. They are the same building blocks that once filled Earth's primordial seas. Many scientists believe that life itself may have begun in places like this, in the shadow of ancient smokers long vanished. Here, chemical chaos became order, molecules became cells, and cells became life. To stand before these towers is to glimpse the beginning of everything we know. The abyss no longer feels like a grave. It feels like a cradle. These black towers are not monuments of death, but of birth cathedrals where Earth whispers the secret of its own creation. And yet, there is more. The creatures that gather here are not merely survivors. They are experiments in possibility, living blueprints for how life might thrive on worlds beyond our own. If it can endure here, in the black lungs of the abyss, why not on distant moons, beneath frozen seas, or on planets orbiting alien stars? The smokers do not just breathe for Earth. They breathe for the universe. The black smokers rise like lungs of the planet, exhaling with a rhythm as ancient as the Earth itself. Each plume is a storm of particles, billions of mineral fragments suspended in superheated water, rising like smoke before fading into the cold abyss. To watch them is to witness creation in motion, a process that builds, destroys, and rebuilds endlessly, shaping the seafloor into landscapes of fire and shadow. The chemistry here is unforgiving. The water that bursts from the chimneys is infused with iron, copper, zinc, and hydrogen sulfide poisons to most forms of life. Yet in the abyss, what poisons some becomes nourishment for others. Microbes thrive in this hostile brew, drawing energy not from the sun, but from the reactions between minerals and seawater. They do what photosynthetic organisms do in sunlight, create energy, build life, but in complete darkness. This is Kank synthesis, the art of turning the impossible into the essential. In the thin film of bacteria coating the smoker's surfaces lies the foundation for an entire ecosystem. Every worm, every crab, every fish here is tied, directly or indirectly, to the invisible work of microbes. They are the silent architects of survival. Closer inspection reveals how strange and ingenious this web of life has become. Tube worms, some stretching taller than a man, grow in dense forests around the chimneys. Their blood-red plumes sway in the mineral-rich currents like ghostly flowers. They have no mouths, no stomachs, no need to feed. Instead, within their tissues live swarms of symbiotic bacteria. The worms draw in sulfides from the vent fluids and oxygen from the surrounding seawater, and their bacterial partners transform this chemical cocktail into food. It is a partnership so complete that the worm cannot live without its microbes, nor the microbes without the worm. In this marriage of necessity, survival is not individual, it is shared. The shrimp are no less extraordinary. Blind to light, they detect instead the faint warmth radiating from the chimneys. They cluster in swarms on the black rock, their bodies pale and ghost-like, their shells shimmering with reflected minerals. Some species carry their own bacterial gardens on their shells, cultivating food as farmers tend crops. Their lives are a balance of risk and reward, for to stray too far from the chimneys is to starve, but to move too close is to burn. Crabs prowl the mineral crusts, opportunists in this fragile kingdom. They scavenge dead worms, prey upon shrimp, and survive on whatever the chimneys release. Their claws click softly in the currents, a reminder that even here, where life seems miraculous, there are predators and prey, balance and struggle. And then there are the fish-pale, eyeless, spectral beings gliding through the shadows. Some lurk at the edges of the plumes, feeding on shrimp and worms. Others drift deeper in the smoke itself, their bodies adapted to tolerate extremes of chemistry that would kill creatures of the surface in an instant. To watch them is to realize how many possibilities exist beyond the rules we thought unbreakable. Around every smoker, a fragile balance holds. Too close to the vent, and the heat scalds. Too far away, and the cold and emptiness return. Within this narrow band between fire and ice, poison and desert life flourishes. It is a tightrope of survival, walked by countless creatures, each with its own improbable adaptations. The chimneys themselves evolve too. Each breath adds layers of minerals, building them higher, changing their shape. Some collapse under their own weight, scattering rock and ash across the seafloor. Others merge into sprawling formations, labyrinths of stone and smoke that resemble ruined cities. They are not static monuments, but living landscapes, changing as the earth itself changes. And as these towers rise and fall, so too does the life that clings to them. When a smoker dies, when its flow of heat and chemicals fades, the creatures vanish. The worms wither, the shrimp scatter, the bacteria lose their fuel. It is a cycle of birth and death, tied not to seasons or sunlight, but to the restless breath of the planet itself. In this way, the abyss reminds us of a truth we often forget. All ecosystems, no matter how strange or resilient, are fragile. They depend on forces larger than themselves, on balances that can shift without warning. Here, life endures only as long as the earth exhales. Yet as we drift among these towers of smoke and fire, the awe outweighs the fragility. We are witnessing a miracle, a thriving oasis where, by every law of reason, nothing should live. The chimneys breathe, and in their breath, they carry the memory of beginnings, the possibility that life everywhere, on every world, may emerge not in sunlight, but in shadow. The deeper one lingers among the chimneys, the more the illusion grows that this is another planet. The black plumes rise like volcanic storms, yet within them, creatures move with ease. It is a reminder that survival is not about resisting the impossible, but about reshaping oneself until the impossible becomes normal. One of the most extraordinary survivors here is the Pompeii worm. It thrives in water that would boil most other life, enduring temperatures over 80 degrees Celsius. Its body is sheathed in a dense coat of bacteria, forming a living shield against the heat. The worm glides in and out of the chimney's cracks, feeding its protective microbes, while the microbes in turn insulate and defend their host. It is a pact forged in extremes, an alliance so tight that neither worm nor microbe can exist apart. Nearby, fields of mussels and clams cling to the rocks, each packed with symbiotic bacteria in their gills. They filter the vent fluids and transform toxins into sustenance, much like the tube worms do. Together, these shellfish create dense colonies, their shells forming reefs that house still more creatures, tiny snails, brittle stars, and scavenging worms. What looks at first like lifeless stone becomes, under close inspection, a bustling metropolis. The adaptations here are not only biological, but behavioral. Shrimps cluster in dense swarms, their shells glowing faintly with mineral dust, their antennae weaving through the dark like strands of silver thread. They jostle for the warmest, most nutrient-rich zones. If one smoker cools, the swarm shifts in unison, flowing like a living river toward another chimney. Theirs is a society bound not by hierarchy, but by movement, by an instinctive reading of the earth's breath. Predators, too, lurk in this alien city. Giant white crabs, their shells encrusted with minerals, patrol the colonies with slow, deliberate steps. They snatch shrimp in their claws and strip meat from weakened worms. Fish dart in and out of the smoke, ambushing prey before vanishing again into the dark. Even here, in this realm of extremes, the cycle of life and death holds. No oasis is free of hunger. Yet what is most striking about this world is not its violence, but its resilience. Every creature seems to have found a way to bend the rules, to endure what should be unbearable. They do not merely survive in the abyss, they flourish. It is a paradox that forces us to reconsider the limits of biology, to wonder how many other unseen worlds might exist in the cracks of impossibility. And the vents themselves, these chimneys of fire, are more than just habitats. They are storytellers. The minerals in their plumes mirror the chemistry of the early Earth. The microbes that thrive here resemble the first ancestors of all complex life. To study them is to look backward in time, to glimpse the processes that may have sparked the origin of existence itself. The abyss becomes not just a frontier, but a memory, a living echo of beginnings. For the creatures who live here, time is different. A smoker may erupt with new heat, attracting a rush of life, only to cool within decades, leaving its city deserted. Generations rise and fall with the rhythm of vent activity, entire colonies vanishing into silence when the Earth's breath falters. But somewhere nearby, a new smoker begins to awaken, and life shifts to greet it, adapting again and again. It is a cycle without permanence, but with endless renewal. To watch it unfold is to realize that stability is not a prerequisite for survival. In fact, here, instability is the law, and adaptation the only constant. These creatures do not cling to the illusion of permanence. They move with the earth, rise with its breath, and vanish when the fire fades. They embody a lesson that resilience is not defiance, but harmony with change. For us, drifting in the glow of the chimneys, it is hard not to feel small. The abyss has revealed a truth that humbles us. Life's ingenuity is greater than we imagined. Its reach longer than our maps could chart. The black smokers are not anomalies, not exceptions, but possibilities, evidence that life may arise in places we once thought empty, that even in the universe beyond, where sunlight may never touch, the seeds of survival might take root. Here, in the shimmering haze of smoke and shadow, we are not just explorers of the deep. We are witnesses to the resilience of life itself. The longer we remain among the smokers, the more their presence begins to feel less like a discovery and more like a revelation. Their columns rise into the dark like cathedrals, each one crowned with a halo of smoke, each one sustaining life where none should exist. To float among them is to stand inside a paradox. In the heart of poison, there is nourishment. In the shadow of fire, there is shelter. The tube worms sway in slow unison, their scarlet plumes catching the faint currents like banners in a windless temple. Shrimps gather in great clusters, shifting together as if choreographed, their shells glowing faintly with minerals. The Pompeii worms slide back into the cracks of stone, their microbial armor shimmering under our lamps like a second skin. Everything here seems in dialogue with the earth itself, listening to its breath, bending to its rhythms, writing survival into every gesture. The vents hiss and roar, exhaling the planet's inner secrets. Their plumes spiral upward in curling towers, and within those towers lies the chemistry of life's dawn. Scientists call it chemosynthesis, but the word feels too clinical, too small. To see it unfold is to witness creation itself, a symphony of elements forging sustenance out of stone and heat. If the early Earth once burned and boiled, if life clawed its first foothold in the cracks of volcanic rock, then perhaps these vents are echoes of that genesis. Perhaps, in these chimneys, we are staring into a mirror that reflects not only the past but the future. For if life can thrive here, in this crucible of extremes, then why not elsewhere? The question lingers like a whisper in the smoke, on distant moons with frozen oceans, on planets circling suns of dim light. Might there also be vents, chimneys, breath rising from alien crusts into alien seas? And if so, might they too be crowned with creatures clinging to warmth, with strange bodies evolving in darkness, with colonies rewriting the laws of survival? The abyss gives no answer, only suggestion. Yet the suggestion is powerful enough to shift the boundaries of imagination. These smokers are not just natural phenomena. They are proof that life is not fragile, not rare, but stubborn and resourceful, willing to ignite wherever it finds even the narrowest chance. We watch as a crab drags its prey into the shadows of a vent, disappearing in the fog of minerals. We watch as a wave of shrimp swarms toward a newly opened crack, filling it instantly with movement. We watch as the chimneys continue their endless exhalation, unaware of the awe they inspire, indifferent to our fragile presence. They would continue with or without us, as they have for thousands of years. We are only visitors here, brief and inconsequential, scribbling notes in the margins of their vast story. And yet, even as visitors, we leave changed. The black smokers teach not only about biology or geology, but about resilience. They remind us that survival is not about clinging to comfort, but about embracing change, about weaving existence out of whatever thread the world provides. Life is not delicate, it is tenacious. It bends, transforms, invents, and endures. As the submersible drifts back, pulling away from the cathedral of smoke, the view narrows. The chimneys fade into silhouettes, the plumes dissolve into the black, and soon the abyss swallows everything once more. But the image lingers, etched into memory. Towers of fire in the deep, crowned with life, speaking the earth's ancient language. The trench grows quiet again, but we know now that the silence is deceptive. Beneath it, the planet breathes. Beneath it, life writes stories we are only beginning to read. And though the chapter closes, the journey does not end. For deeper still, beyond these plumes of creation, lie creatures stranger than we have yet imagined, organisms that stretch the boundaries of possibility even further. The abyss has more secrets to tell. The descent into the trench has already rewritten our understanding of survival. Yet what waits beyond the smokers feels stranger still. For in the dark beyond their glow, life takes on shapes that seem borrowed from imagination, sculpted by pressure and absence of light into forms that defy familiarity. These creatures are not mere animals. They are riddles, living metaphors for a world hidden from human eyes. The first to appear are the anglerfish, drifting in the darkness like shadows given flesh. Their bodies are grotesque by surface standards. Huge jaws lined with translucent teeth, stomachs swollen to swallow prey larger than themselves. But what defines them is the lure, a glowing filament that dangles from their foreheads, swaying in the blackness like a false star. It is both deception and promise, drawing smaller creatures close enough to vanish in a sudden strike. In this place where light is rare, the anglerfish has learned to manufacture its own. Its lantern is more than survival. It is a cruel beauty, a reminder that here, even light can be a weapon. Yet strangers still are the gulper eels. Their bodies stretch long and sinuous, ending in jaws so vast they seem impossible. These jaws can unhinge, opening into a cavernous mouth that swallows prey whole, even prey half the eel's size. Their tails shimmer faintly with bioluminescent glows, pulses of cold fire in the water. Watching one drift past is like seeing a shadow dissolve, then return again as if conjured. They move with a grace that belies their monstrous design, silent serpents gliding through eternal night. Further still, the abyss offers creatures so delicate they seem sculpted from glass. Transparent jellyfish bloom in the water, their bells trailing filaments that catch the faintest glimmers of light. Some pulse with inner rhythms of color greens, blues, even purples like lanterns breathing in the dark. To see them drifting is to glimpse something ethereal, as though the ocean carries its own constellation, stars that rise not in the sky but in the trenches of the earth. But not all light here is gentle. Dragonfish emerge from the shadows, with bodies armored and scales that gleam like oil. Their mouths brim with fangs too large for their heads, and their throats hold photophores, tiny organs of light. They can open their jaws and release a flash, a sudden strobe in the blackness that startles prey long enough for the killing strike. Some species glow in red, a color invisible to most deep-sea creatures. In a world of eternal night, dragonfish wield a secret spectrum, communicating and hunting in light no other eye can see. As the submersible pushes deeper, the sense of entering another world only grows. Here swim creatures that look like ghosts, gelatinous beings with bodies so fragile they collapse under human touch, yet perfectly engineered for pressure that would crush steel. There are siphonophores, colonial organisms stretching dozens of meters, each section a specialized life form, yet all connected as one. They drift like living tapestries, strings of light weaving through the dark. What is most striking is not merely their form, but the atmosphere they create. This is not a barren realm of predators and prey. It is a theater, a dreamscape where every movement feels deliberate, every flicker of light a signal, every shadow a mystery. The abyss is alive with choreography, a dance written in silence and pressure. These beings are reminders of how little we know. They are not anomalies. They are neighbors, sharing the planet with us, unseen yet essential. Some recycle carbon, drawing it from the surface and locking it in the depths. Others serve as prey for larger predators, binding together the food chains that keep oceans alive. Without them, the surface seas we know would collapse. Yet we, for centuries, believed these trenches were lifeless. We mistook absence of light for absence of existence. And so, to witness these creatures now is to feel humbled. They are more than curiosities, more than oddities to be catalogued. They are proof that life's imagination is vaster than our own. Each glowing lure, each translucent fin, each shimmering thread of bioluminescence whispers the same truth, that the earth is stranger, darker, and more beautiful than we dare to believe. The abyss does not merely contain life, it contains visions of possibility. And as we drift deeper into this alien menagerie, we begin to wonder if these beings are echoes of worlds beyond our own, hints of what may exist in oceans light years away. The deeper we push into the trench, the stranger the beings become. It is as though every additional mile of water reshapes the rules of biology, twisting familiar blueprints into designs no surface world could conceive. At these depths, survival is not a matter of strength or speed, but of surrender bodies sculpted not to resist the abyss, but to belong to it. One of the most haunting of these forms is the snailfish. Fragile, translucent, and eerily delicate, it looks almost too fragile to live at all. Its body is soft, lacking the rigid bones that would splinter under the weight of the trench. Instead, its form is pliable, yielding to pressure rather than fighting it. Its skin is nearly transparent, its organs faintly visible, giving it the appearance of a ghost adrift in black water. And yet, this unassuming creature thrives at depths of more than 8,000 meters far, beyond the limits of most known fish. To watch it glide effortlessly through crushing darkness is to witness adaptation distilled into its purest form. Survival not by defiance, but by transformation. Around it swarm amphipods, small crustaceans with armored shells, their movements quick and erratic like sparks of static in the void. They scavenge tirelessly, stripping away every trace of organic matter that drifts down from above. It is a grim, endless work, but also essential. These scavengers are the recyclers of the abyss, ensuring that even in this hostile world, no resource is wasted. Their presence is a reminder that survival in the deep is not just about wonder. It is also about hunger, about the endless cycle of taking and giving back. Further along, The submersible's lights reveal creatures, strange or still gelatinous predators, suspended in the water like living sculptures. Some look like ribbons of glass, their bodies undulating with hypnotic grace. Others are shaped like bells, their transparent domes pulsing with rhythmic contractions that propel them silently forward. From their edges trail filaments so long they vanish into the black, invisible snares armed with stinging cells. To drift into those threads is to vanish without resistance, paralyzed and consumed in silence. Among them moves another phantom, the borelli fish. At first it seems unremarkable, a small, dark body hovering aimlessly in the water. But as the lamps sweep over it, the truth becomes visible. Its head is transparent, and inside, its eyes are not where they should be. Instead, they are tubes, green and barrel-shaped, rotating upward within its skull like a pair of periscopes. Through this bizarre anatomy, the fish peers through its own head, gazing above for the silhouettes of prey drifting down. In a world where every scrap of life is precious, such innovation is survival incarnate, an entire skull turned into a window to catch what little the abyss offers. And deeper still, bioluminescent hunters flicker into view. Some flash in short, deliberate burst codes of light exchanged in the black, communications we can only guess at. Others glow constantly, bodies shimmering with cold fire, as though lit from within by some secret ember. Their light is not beauty for beauty's sake. It is lure, camouflage, warning, language, survival. Here, where sunlight never reaches, bioluminescence is the closest thing to speech. As we drift among these creatures, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. Every adaptation, no matter how grotesque or delicate, is a response to the abyss itself. Pressure, darkness, scarcity, these are the sculptors, chiseling bodies into forms as surreal as dreams. To us, they appear alien. To them, we are the strange beings built for fragile air, stumbling into a world we cannot endure without steel and glass to shield us. And yet, even as outsiders, we cannot help but feel a connection. For in their survival, we glimpse something familiar. The same instinct that drives all life, from microbes to mammals, from surface to trench, the desire to persist, to endure, to find a way. These creatures, no matter how bizarre, are kin in that struggle. They are part of the same story, written in a different language, but carrying the same refrain. The abyss is no longer silent. It hums with the pulse of bioluminescence, with the sway of translucent fins, with the faint movements of scavengers and hunters alike. It is not emptiness, it is abundance, hidden in plain darkness. And as we drift deeper still, one question grows louder. How much stranger can life become? The further we sink into the trench, the more life seems to dissolve into dream. Shapes no longer conform to the patterns we know. Instead, they stretch into visions that blur the line between biology and hallucination. To describe them feels inadequate, for words struggle to hold the fluid strangeness of creatures that appear sculpted not by evolution, but by imagination itself. One such marvel is the siphonophore. At first, it seems like a single animal, an immense glowing ribbon drifting through the black. But closer inspection reveals a truth far stranger. It is not one creature, but many. Each segment along its body is an individual organism, specialized for a task. Some digest food, others sting, others propel the colony forward. Together, they function as one being, a living collective that can stretch longer than a blue whale, longer even than the tallest skyscraper. It is as if the abyss has chosen not to craft individuals, but to weave entire societies into a single form, moving as though with one mind. Nearby, a ctenophore drifts into view, a comb jelly, its gelatinous body iridescent under our lights. Along its surface, rows of microscopic cilia beat in perfect waves, catching the light and scattering it into rainbows. It is a living prism, refracting the darkness into color. With each pulse, it glows as though stitched with threads of starlight. Unlike the violent stings of jellyfish, cone jellies capture prey with sticky cells. Their hunting is silent and delicate as they're drifting. Watching them is like watching glass breathe. But the trench is not only ethereal, it is also grotesque. Rising from the dark comes the fang-toothed fish. Its body small, but its teeth enormous, so large they must fit into special sockets when the mouth closes. Its eyes are reduced, merely useless, for here sight is irrelevant. Instead, it relies on a heightened sense of pressure and vibration, detecting even the faintest movements around it. In the world of the abyss, where size often yields to subtlety, the fangtooth proves that even monsters can be diminutive, their terror carried not in mass, but in design. And then there are the gulper-like predators, whose jaws seem less like mouths and more like nets. They float open-mouthed, patient, waiting for whatever drifts inside. In a place where meals may come only rarely, such patience is not weakness, but wisdom. They are reminders that in the trench, energy itself is currency, and extravagance is punished. Every flick of a fin, every pulse of light, every movement must be calculated, or risk the slow starvation that shadows every creature here. Even stranger still are the creatures that do not seem to move at all. Delicate stalked crinoids, relatives of sea stars, rise from the seafloor like frozen flowers, arms stretched wide into the currents to catch drifting snow. Their stillness is deceptive, for it is not passivity but precision, a method of harvesting the scarce particles that trickle down from the surface above. Around them, sea cucumbers crawl like sluggish shadows, their bodies transparent, their digestive tracts faintly glowing as they recycle sediment grain by grain. The abyss wastes nothing, and these scavengers ensure that even the smallest scrap is transformed back into life. It becomes clear that survival here is not only adaptation, but artistry. Each creature embodies a solution that feels less engineered and more invented, a strange poetry written in flesh and light. Some dazzle, some horrify, some vanish the moment they appear, but all remind us that life is not constrained by our imagination. It flows into forms we would never have guessed, shaped by forces we can barely comprehend. The submersible drifts quietly, our lamps sweeping across the dreamscape. For every creature we glimpse, dozens more remain unseen, slipping just beyond the reach of our eyes. The abyss holds its secrets tightly, revealing only fragments, as if reminding us that we are trespassers here, visitors in a world that was never meant for us. And yet, even those fragments are enough to shift the boundaries of wonder. The trench does not feel like an ocean anymore. It feels like a gallery, each organism a sculpture, each flicker of light a brushstroke, each adaptation a masterpiece carved not by human hands, but by time, pressure, and necessity. In this silent art, survival itself becomes a performance. It is not enough to endure. One must endure beautifully, with ingenuity so radical it appears like magic. And as we drift deeper still, one question presses against us with the weight of the abyss. If this is what life creates in one trench of one planet, what unimaginable wonders might exist in oceans we have never seen? The further we drift into this twilight world, the more it becomes clear that the trench is less an ecosystem and more a revelation. Each organism we encounter seems to ask a question, as though testing the limits of what we believe life can be. Their shapes, their strategies, their quiet persistence, they whisper of possibilities we had not dared to imagine. Above, we have always thought of life as fragile, dependent on narrow conditions of light, warmth, and air. Yet here, in the black silence, we find creatures not merely surviving but flourishing, bending the rules of biology with a creativity that humbles us. The abyss does not accommodate life. Life reshapes itself until it belongs to the abyss. Take the anglerfish again, its solitary lantern glowing in the dark. What seems grotesque at first becomes, in the context of the trench, an act of brilliance. With a single lure, It bends light into hunger, tricking prey into seeking their own end. In the surface world, such a design would seem monstrous. Down here, it is poetry, a predator's haiku, written in light and shadow. Or the siphonophore, that vast collective masquerading as one. To human eyes, it seems alien, almost unsettling. But perhaps it offers us a mirror. Just as cities are built from individuals who function together, so too does the siphonophore become more than the sum of its parts. Is it a colony, or is it an individual? The abyss does not care. It thrives in the ambiguity, reminding us that our definitions of self and organism may be as shallow as the seas above. Even the smallest beings carry their lessons. Amphipods, tirelessly scavenging in clouds, ensure that nothing is wasted. Transparent jellies refract our lights into fleeting rainbows, proving that fragility is not weakness, but another path to endurance. Snailfish glide like apparitions, teaching us that strength is not always resistance, but surrender, the wisdom to yield rather than shatter. And always, surrounding them all, the glow of bioluminescence. It flickers in the black like secret language, like the heartbeat of the deep itself. Every pulse of light is both signal and survival, both performance and necessity. To us, it is beauty. To them, it is life. The more we watch, the harder it becomes to think of these beings as alien. Yes, they look strange, their forms surreal, their habits incomprehensible. But beneath the strangeness lies a familiarity, the same drive to endure, to adapt, to leave behind descendants in a place that seems unlivable. In this way, the trench creatures are kin. They are threads in the same tapestry that includes us, woven differently but woven still. And yet, the trench also humbles. It reminds us of how little we know, how narrow our imagination has been. For centuries, we gazed at the stars and wondered if life existed elsewhere, all while entire kingdoms thrived beneath our own oceans, unseen. If Earth alone contains such variety, what might the universe contain? The abyss is not just an ecosystem, it is a prophecy. It tells us that where there is energy, where there is chemistry, where there is time, life will find a way. As the submersible pulls away, leaving the glow of our lamps to vanish into darkness, the creatures retreat back into invisibility. The siphonophore dissolves into shadow. The comb jellies fade into glass. The anglerfish extinguishes its lonely lantern. Silence returns, heavy and eternal. Yet we carry their presence with us, etched into memory like constellations glimpsed once and never forgotten. The abyss has given us a gallery of impossible beings, each one more than a curiosity. They are teachers, showing us that survival is art, that adaptation is infinite, that life's imagination exceeds our own. And though this chapter closes, the journey presses deeper still. For below these drifting phantoms on the very floor of the trench lie creatures stranger still life that clings to rock and sediment at depths almost beyond comprehension. The abyss has not finished its story. At last, the descent is complete. The abyss that swallowed us for hours has delivered us to the place where Earth itself seems to end, the floor of the Mariana Trench. Here, nearly 11 kilometers beneath the surface, we rest upon the bottom of the world, a plain of silence pressed flat beneath unimaginable weight. Above us lies the entirety of the Pacific Ocean, crushing down with a pressure more than 1,000 times greater than at sea level. Every square inch of this place endures a burden that would pulverize steel. Yet here life exists, soft-bodied, unarmored, unbroken. The lamps of the submersible sweep across a barren landscape, and for a moment, it feels like we have arrived on another planet. The floor stretches in gray emptiness, a vast desert of fine sediment that billows upward with every disturbance. Clouds of dust hanging in the water like ash. Rocks lie scattered like bones. Crevices open suddenly into darkness, narrow gashes in the earth that hint at depths still deeper, places we cannot go. There is no horizon here, only shadow and the dim circle of light we carry with us, fragile against the infinite. It is here, at the bottom of the deepest trench, that the most improbable creatures have chosen to exist. The first of them emerge slowly, as though shy, appearing on the edges of the light. Pale snailfish drift just above the sediment, their bodies gelatinous, their bones reduced to near nothing. Their transparency seems to deny the very idea of flesh, as though they are ghosts inhabiting the water. Yet these are not fragile apparitions. They are apex predators of this extreme world, able to withstand the crushing weight by surrendering to it, their bodies so soft that pressure passes through them rather than breaking them. They glide effortlessly, proving that survival here is not a battle but a surrender, an agreement with the abyss itself. The lamps reveal other beings as we scan the bottom. Small amphipods scuttle across the sediment, scavengers armored in chitin. Some are no larger than a fingernail, others astonishingly large, grown to the size of a human hand. They move with restless hunger, feeding on the remains of whatever drifts down from the world above. It is a banquet built from scarcity, a feast drawn from the ocean's slow rain of snow. For millions of years, these amphipods have patrolled the trench floor, the quiet custodians of decay, ensuring that no death is wasted, that energy cycles onward, even in this place where sunlight never reaches. Occasionally, we glimpse stranger forms. Transparent holothurians or sea cucumbers float above the sediment like pale balloons, their bodies so delicate they appear to be stitched from glass. They expand and contract in a rhythm that seems almost like breathing, feeding on the fine organic matter that coats the floor. Some move in slow motion, crawling with tiny tube feet, while others inflate and rise into the water column, drifting like ghosts until they settle again. To human eyes, they appear otherworldly, fragile, absurd, improbable. And yet, here, they are perfectly at home. Everywhere there is silence. Not the silence of stillness, but the silence of immense pressure, of a place where sound travels differently, where even the pulse of our submersible feels muted. Time itself seems altered here. Movements are slow, deliberate, measured as though every action carries weight. This is not a place for haste. It is a place where endurance, not speed, is the measure of survival. The trench floor humbles not just with its emptiness, but with its resilience. Life here does not defy the abyss, it becomes it. Each organism is a compromise, an invention, a reminder that existence is not fragile, but infinitely adaptable. Above, we speak of limits, of how much heat life can bear, of how much cold, how much pressure, how much darkness. And yet, here, those limits dissolve. The trench floor is not sterile, not empty, not dead. It is alive with quiet persistence, an entire world built on patience, on adaptation, on silence. As we gaze through the glass, the feeling grows stronger. This is less a seafloor than a threshold. To stand here is to touch the edge of what we know, to feel the immensity of Earth not just as a planet, but as a universe in itself. For in this place where no light has ever reached, life burns quietly, a testament not to fragility, but to the endless, unstoppable will to endure. And just as the thought settles, the lamp strikes something unexpected, an opening in the sediment, a vent of unknown origin, where strange currents stir the stillness. Around it, life gathers in ways we do not yet understand. The trench floor, it seems, has more secrets yet to show. The submersible hovers closer, lamps sweeping across the unexpected disturbance in the sediment. At first, it appears to be nothing more than a subtle shimmer, a distortion in the black water, as though the abyss itself exhales. Then the truth reveals itself, a vent, a small fissure in the earth, where the planet's interior quietly bleeds into the trench. It is not the towering black smokers of the mid-ocean ridges, nor the violent geysers of volcanic seams, but something quieter, more mysterious, an opening where mineral-rich fluids drift upward, staining the water with faint ribbons of shimmer. And around it, life gathers. Against all intuition, the vent is not a sterile wound, but a fountain of possibility. Tiny bacterial mats spread across the sediment, faint veils of white and yellow clinging to the rocks. They are invisible architects, the foundation of an ecosystem that exists without sunlight. Where the world above depends on light cascading from the sky, here life begins with chemistry, hydrogen sulfide, methane, minerals spilling from the Earth's veins. These bacteria feast on what we would call poison, transforming it into energy, building blocks, existence. In the emptiness of the trench, they are alchemists, transmuting lifelessness into life. Drifting closer, we see amphipods congregating in the haze, feeding on the bacterial films, their translucent bodies reflecting our lights like shards of glass. Some cling directly to the vent edges, where conditions swing wildly between lethal extremes. Others hover in the calmer waters nearby, taking what they can from the buffet of microbes. For them, this quiet vent is no anomaly. It is sanctuary, a place of abundance in a desert of scarcity. Stranger still are the creatures that appear from the shadows. Long, thread-like forms sway in the chemical plumes, their bodies white, their heads tipped with feathery red plumes that flicker in the current. They are not worms in the sense we know, but living conduits, their tissues filled with symbiotic bacteria that convert vent chemicals into sustenance. These beings do not eat, do not hunt, do not scavenge. They simply exist as vessels for their microbial partners, living in perfect partnership with the invisible. Their red plumes bloom like flowers in an eternal midnight garden, each one a flag announcing the resilience of life. As the submersible glides further, the lamps reveal patches of life scattered across the trench floor like faint constellations. Delicate holothurians cluster near mineral patches, grazing on microbial dust. Tiny ghost-like fish drift through the shimmering plumes, their pale bodies almost erasing into the water. Even the sediments themselves seem alive, stirred constantly by the hidden movements of burrowers. For a place that should be barren, the trench floor is restless, a hidden city built from invisibility. Yet what is most remarkable is not the abundance, but the improvisation. Each creature here is a response to impossibility, a solution to a problem that seems unsolvable. How to breathe under pressure that would crush lungs. Abandon lungs altogether. How to find food in eternal scarcity. Build a partnership with microbes that eat poison. How to exist where light has never touched. Create light from your own body, or else abandon the need for it entirely. Down here, existence is not resistance, it is transformation. And always, there is the silence. Even with the vent's faint stirring, the abyss remains overwhelmingly still, as though every motion is swallowed before it can echo. It is in this silence that the weight of the place sinks into us most. Every organism we see is a defiance of our assumptions, but not a rebellion. None of them rage against the abyss. They belong to it, written into its code. The trench is not their enemy, it is their origin. For a moment, the submersible's lights catch something drifting upward from the vent plume. Flakes of bacterial mats, fragments of organic matter spiraling into the dark. To us, it seems inconsequential, dust in the current. But to the creatures waiting in the shadows, it is treasure. Amphipods dart toward the drifting snow. Tiny fish follow. The trench is built on patience, on the eternal recycling of whatever falls. And here, the vent gives them a rare gift, an oasis of energy in an endless night. And then, as the lamps sweep wider, the trench floor itself seems to ripple. The sediment moves subtly, almost imperceptibly. For an instant, it feels as though the ground is alive. Then the truth emerges. Giant sea cucumbers, transparent and enormous, rise from the sediment where they had blended invisibly. Their bodies inflate like fragile balloons, and with a slow, deliberate push, They ascend into the water column, vanishing into shadow. Silent giants migrating through the abyss in search of food, leaving only faint disturbances where they once lay. The floor of the trench, once thought lifeless, reveals itself as a theater of the improbable. Each act is slower, quieter, more delicate than we expect, but each one is vital, each one alive. And still, the deeper mystery remains. What else hides in the shadows beyond the reach of our lights? The submersible drifts forward, its lamps slicing through the darkness like fragile blades. Beyond the vent fields, the trench floor stretches in a monotony that is almost unbearable, vast plains of gray sediment, unbroken and endless. And yet, as in all deserts, life hides in subtle traces, waiting for the careful eye to uncover it. We see it first in the movements. The seafloor ripples, shifting not with current but with life itself. Amphipods scuttle in restless patrols, leaving trails that vanish as quickly as they appear. Transparent holothurians roll with ghostly patience, their delicate bodies indistinguishable from the mud until they stir. Small fish flicker at the edges of vision, darting and gone again in the space of a heartbeat. Then the larger scavengers arrive. Out of the dark comes a creature that seems impossibly misplaced, an enormous amphipod, pale and armored, its body long and powerful, legs flexing with deliberate strength. It is a titan compared to its smaller kin, stretching longer than a human arm. In this place of scarcity, gigantism is no luxury but a strategy. Larger bodies allow for longer fasting, for slower metabolisms, for journeys across greater distances in search of food. These colossal scavengers move with an elegance that belies their alien forms, combing the trench floor for whatever scraps the abyss provides. Nearby, an isopod crawls into the light, grotesque and mesmerizing. Its armored plates glisten, and its many legs churn with slow determination as it navigates the soft sediment. It resembles a giant louse, unsettling its familiarity, yet here it is kingly, an ancient survivor, a scavenger built for patience. It pauses at a fragment of organic matter, devouring it with a hunger born of timeless waiting. Watching it, one realizes that in the abyss, every meal is both rare and sacred. Further on, a shape moves with uncanny silence. It is a grenadier fish, its elongated body tapering into a whip-like tail, its head massive, its eyes adapted to glean every flicker of faint light. It drifts above the seafloor like a shadow-given form, feeding on amphipods and detritus with a slow inevitability. The grenadier is not hurried, for here time itself is different. Survival is not a sprint but an eternal vigil, a readiness for what might arrive from the world above. Occasionally, that world intrudes in startling ways. The submersible sensors pick up a disturbance in the sediment a whale fall. Though long reduced to bones, the skeleton of a leviathan lies half buried in the mud, ribs arching like ruins of a cathedral. Around it gathers a congregation of life, amphipods swarming in numbers beyond counting, isopods gnawing at what remains, epout fish weaving through the skeletal arches. Even here, at the bottom of the trench, the death of a giant feeds an entire city. The whale's body, once roaming sunlit oceans, now nourishes life in the abyss. Nothing is wasted. Every ending is transformed. As we move past the whale's grave, the trench reminds us again of its silence. The stillness is oppressive, yet within it lies a paradoxical vitality. The creatures here are not frantic, not wasteful. They have learned the rhythm of eternity. Days, weeks, months may pass between meals, between motions. What is time, after all, when survival is measured not in hours but in eons? To live here is to embrace patience so profound it verges on timelessness. The seafloor itself bears this same quality. Unlike the restless churn of shallower oceans, the trench floor feels ancient, unmoving, as though it has not changed in millennia. Sediments accumulate slowly, grain by grain, the debris of ages raining down from above. Each layer is a record of Earth's history, pressed into silence. To stand here is to stand not only at the bottom of the ocean, but at the bottom of time itself. And then, in that stillness, something stirs that we did not expect. From the edge of the light comes a vast shadow, slow, deliberate, immense. A deep-sea cucumber, the size of a man, drifts upward, its body translucent and glowing faintly as it rises. It floats like a balloon into the dark, disappearing into the void. Moments later, another follows, then another, a silent migration across the seafloor. They vanish as they came, without sound, without haste, leaving us to wonder how many more move unseen beyond our lights. Everywhere the trench floor humbles us with its restraint, with its quiet abundance hidden in austerity. Each organism is a reminder that life requires neither sunlight nor warmth, only the chance to adapt, to change, to endure. And though we have seen much, the sense of mystery only deepens. For every creature revealed, countless others must remain beyond our reach, hidden in trenches, in cracks, in the folds of the abyss. The floor of the Mariana is not barren. It is cathedral. It is graveyard. It is sanctuary. And as the submersible presses onward, we sense the culmination of this journey approaching, a confrontation with the deepest truths of survival at the ultimate edge of Earth. The submersible lingers near the bottom, its light soft halos against an eternity of black. Around us, the trench floor lies unmoving, a canvas painted in shades of gray. Yet within its stillness, we feel a presence, as though the abyss itself is watching, waiting, withholding its final secrets. Every drift of sediment, every pale flicker of movement carries the weight of something older than we can grasp. This is no ordinary ecosystem. This is the root of the world. The beings that dwell here remind us not of fragility, but of endurance. The snailfish, transparent and delicate, survives not by resisting pressure, but by yielding to it, its body so fluid that crushing weight passes through rather than against it. The amphipods, tireless scavengers, strip the last traces of nourishment from every fragment of matter, recycling death into continuity. The isopods crawl through the dust like armored monks, patient in their endless devotion to survival. Each one teaches the same lesson, that life is not defined by conditions, but by persistence. And then there are the giants of silence, the deep-sea cucumbers that rise from the mud, inflating, drifting upward like pale spirits ascending. Watching them vanish into darkness feels like witnessing a ritual, a migration older than our species, repeated in perfect silence for millions of years. Here, in the most crushing depths, they are not crushed. They ascend weightless in a place defined by weight, vanishing into the void as though to remind us that even here, life refuses to be bound. The trench floor carries another truth, written not in living flesh, but in the sediments themselves. Each layer is a page of history, a chronicle of Earth stretching back through time. Dust from continents, ash from volcanoes, fragments of bone, particles of life long extinct. All of it drifts downward, settling in silence. To touch the seafloor here is to touch the accumulation of ages, the memory of a planet written grain by grain. While the surface world is restless, tearing down and rebuilding in constant change, the abyss remembers. Yet what humbles us most is not the creatures we see, nor the sediments beneath them, but the sense of what remains unseen. The submersible's lamps can only reach so far, leaving vast swaths of shadow untouched. What lives just beyond our sight? What eyes might be watching from the dark? In a place so immense, so eternal, it is impossible to believe we have glimpsed more than fragments. The abyss is generous in hints, but stingy in answers. It gives us enough to ignite wonder, and then recedes, cloaking itself again in silence. And then, as suddenly as it began, the lights fade. The stars vanish. Darkness returns. The submersible stirs. Lights flicker back on, and once more we see only the sediment, the amphipods, the slow giants of the mud. But something has changed. We know now that the abyss is not empty. It is alive with mystery, alive with persistence, alive with fireflies of the deep. The trench floor is not the end of the world, but a threshold, reminding us that life will follow wherever the planet allows, even to the place where Earth itself seems to collapse into silence. As we rise from the bottom, leaving the seafloor to its patience, we carry with us the weight of its lessons. That survival is not conquest but adaptation. That beauty is not confined to light, but burns also in the dark. That life's imagination knows no limits, not even those imposed by 11 kilometers of ocean pressing down. The abyss releases us slowly, reluctantly, as though unwilling to let go. And as the submersible begins its long ascent, one truth lingers above all others. The floor of the Mariana Trench is not a place of death. It is a place of beginnings. The ascent begins slowly, the submersible straining upward through the blackness. The trench floor recedes beneath us, swallowed once more by the eternal dark. It feels almost sacrilegious to leave, as though we are abandoning a cathedral built not of stone but of silence, not of spires but of patience. Yet as we rise, carrying with us the memory of those quiet creatures, we are left with a question that hums louder than the engines. What does this place mean? For the Mariana Trench is more than geography. It is more than a fissure in Earth's crust, more than a crushing pocket of water. It is a mirror, held up to life itself. In its depths, we have witnessed strategies that defy imagination, fish that glow like lanterns in the dark, worms that eat poison by partnering with microbes, scavengers that thrive on famine, creatures so soft they yield to the weight of the planet itself. Each organism is an answer to a riddle, a living equation solved in ways we never expected. And in their strangeness lies the most profound truth. Life is not fragile. Life is inventive. On the surface, we speak of conditions as though they are barriers. Too hot, too cold, too dark, too deep. Yet the abyss shows us that too is not a limit but an invitation. For every place we label impossible, there are beings already at home. Where we imagine walls, life finds doors. Where we imagine endings, life writes new beginnings. The trench, in its silence, tells us that the possibilities of existence are greater than our certainty allows. This realization changes how we see our planet. It tells us that Earth is not one world, but many, layered and folded into itself. The sunlit shallows with their reefs, the open oceans filled with giants, the twilight zones where predators wield light like weapons, the trenches where creatures live in partnership with microbes. Each is a different Earth, each with its own rules, its own definitions of possible. We live not on one planet but on 1,000, all stitched together beneath a single sky. And if this is true of Earth, what of the universe? For centuries, we have looked to the stars and asked if life exists beyond our fragile blue sphere. We have imagined it in familiar forms, plants, animals, beings like us, shaped by sunlight and warmth. But the abyss tells us to imagine differently. It tells us that life does not need light, does not need warmth, does not even need what we call abundance. Life needs only a crack, an energy, a chance. If it can thrive 11 kilometers beneath an ocean, feeding on poison and drifting snow, why not beneath the ice of Europa, or in the methane seas of Titan, or in the hidden oceans of Enceladus? The trench is not merely a window into Earth, it is a prophecy of worlds unseen. It whispers that wherever chemistry stirs, wherever energy flows, life will find a way. It will glow in the dark. It will eat what we call poison. It will yield instead of resist. It will invent forms we cannot yet name. And when we discover it, we may not even recognize it at first, for for the abyss has already shown us that the alien is not alien at all. It is simply another branch of the same tree we climb. As the submersible continues its ascent, the darkness outside begins to feel different. No longer oppressive, no longer suffocating, it feels alive. The black is no longer absence, but fullness, full of secrets, full of teachers, full of possibilities. The abyss has not diminished us. It has enlarged us, showing that our definitions of survival, of beauty, of belonging are too small. And still, there is humility. For though we have glimpsed wonders, we know we have seen only fragments. The trench keeps its greatest secrets in shadow. It has shown us enough to understand, but not enough to grasp. We leave with reverence, aware that mystery itself is part of the lesson. The unknown is not a void to fear, but a horizon to honor. Above, the water grows lighter by imperceptible degrees. The abyss is behind us now, but its truth remains with us. We are not leaving it. We are carrying it upward, into the surface world, where its lessons may change the way we see everything. The abyss is not a place we conquered. It is a place that remade us. The lightless pressure chamber of the trench is not only a theater of survival, it is a time machine. To gaze upon the creatures of the abyss is to look backward into Earth's own prehistory. For many of these beings are not merely strange, they are ancient, echoes of evolutionary chapters written long before humans appeared, long before forests rose on land, long before the first vertebrate dared to crawl from the sea. In their delicate, translucent bodies, we see the persistence of lineages that have outlasted continents, climates, and catastrophes. Consider the amphipods, those ghost-like scavengers drifting in clouds along the trench floor. Their anatomy, so alien to us, has remained virtually unchanged for tens of millions of years. They are survivors of ages that saw dinosaurs rise and vanish, oceans warm and freeze, meteors strike, and mountains crumble. Yet here, in the trench, they endure fragile, yes, but unbroken, embodying the stubborn continuity of life across geologic time. Or think of the snailfish, the unlikely monarch of the trench. Pale, gelatinous, its body would collapse in the gentler waters near the surface. It cannot leave this depth, yet within its narrow kingdom it thrives. To us, its form appears soft, almost vulnerable, but in truth it is an emblem of resilience, proof that to yield can be a greater strength than to resist. When the continent shifted, when ice sheets spread and receded, when climates oscillated between heat and cold, it was not the strongest who endured, but the most adaptable, the ones willing to bend, to change, to survive in niches where competition could not follow. The abyss, then, is a living archive. It shows us that Earth's story is not one of conquest, but of persistence. Species do not endure by dominating every environment. They endure by finding the one place where their strangeness is strength. Each trench creature is a testimony to this truth, that survival is not about power, but about fit. And fit, in turn, is found in unexpected places. This challenges the way we view ourselves. Humanity often imagines itself as the culmination of life's story, the peak of a long climb, but the trench whispers otherwise. It tells us that we are not the summit, but one branch among countless branches, each carrying its own wisdom. Our intelligence, our technology, our restless ambition, these are our adaptations, no more or less valid than the snailfish's softness or the amphipod's patience. We, too, are fragile creatures surviving in our own niche, bound to the narrow conditions of our world. And those conditions are not permanent. The trench reminds us of Earth's impermanence, of its constant state of transformation. The abyss itself is a scar, torn open by tectonic collisions. Mountains rise and crumble, seas advance and retreat, climates warm and cool. To the trench, a million years is an eye blink. What seems unchangeable to us is only temporary in its gaze. Yet life persists through it all, reinventing itself with every upheaval. This is perhaps the greatest lesson, that resilience is not the absence of change, but the embrace of it. The creatures of the trench have survived not because they resisted change, but because they became change. Their bodies are written in a language of adaptation, proof that survival means rewriting oneself as the world rewrites itself. When we look into the abyss, then, we are not just seeing strange animals, we are seeing the very principle of endurance. Life's ability to persist is not an accident. It is a law, a constant as powerful as gravity or light. For as long as there has been Earth, there has been transformation. And as long as there has been transformation, there has been life finding a way through it. And so the abyss reframes our own story. It warns us that our civilization, for all its triumphs, is not invulnerable. We are bound to Earth's rhythms, to its shifts and cycles. We are temporary tenants, as all species are, yet it also reassures us. For even if we falter, even if we fade, life itself will go on. It has gone on through greater trials than any we can imagine, and it will continue long after we are gone. There is humility in this realization, but also comfort. For to understand ourselves as part of this broader continuum is to belong to something larger than history. We are not outside of nature, not above it, but within it. The abyss does not diminish us, it situates us, reminding us that our story is one chapter in a book that has no final page. As the submersible rises, carrying these truths upward, the waters begin to lighten faintly, almost imperceptibly. Shadows soften, shapes stir in the gloom. We are leaving the world of timeless patience, yet its lesson clings to us. That change is inevitable, and survival is invention. In this way, the trench is not only a place of endings, but of beginnings. Its dark waters hold the memory of life's oldest struggles and the promise of its future triumphs. It tells us that resilience is not the privilege of a few, but the heritage of all who live. And as the first traces of light touch the submersible, we realize we are carrying the abyss within us. Its wisdom will not fade when the pressure lifts. To stare into the trench is to stare into the unknown, but it is not only Earth's unknown. It is the unknown of the cosmos itself. For when we peer into these crushing depths, we are rehearsing a far greater question. Are we alone? For decades, astronomers have looked outward at distant stars and exoplanets orbiting suns beyond imagining. Yet in the quiet of the abyss, scientists have begun to realize something extraordinary. The key to answering that question may not lie in the heavens above, but in the darkness below. Think of Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. Beneath its frozen crust lies a vast ocean, sealed away for eons. Warmed not by sunlight, but by tidal flexing, by the slow grinding of planetary bones. To imagine Europa's sea is to imagine the Mariana Trench writ large, a global abyss stretching across an entire world. What could live there in perpetual night? Under pressures we can scarcely calculate. The trench gives us a clue. It tells us that life can thrive without sunlight, feeding on chemical reactions, finding sustenance where none seems possible. Or in Enceladus, the icy moon of Saturn, where geysers erupt into space, flinging plumes of water that betray a hidden sea beneath. We study those geysers and we think of black smokers, those submarine chimneys belching minerals into the abyss, creating havens of life where there should be only silence. If bacteria, worms, and fish can flourish around such vents in our own ocean, why not microbes or something stranger in Enceladus's buried sea? And Titan with its methane lakes and hydrocarbon rain. At first glance it seems utterly alien, a world too cold, too hostile for life as we know it. But here again, the trench instructs us. For life is not a single recipe. It is a principle, a persistence. Just as creatures here have learned to sculpt their forms to the abyss, perhaps elsewhere forms exist molded not by water, but by methane, not by oxygen, but by some chemistry beyond our imagining. The lesson of the trench is not that life is rare, but that life is versatile. Each creature we encounter at the ocean's floor, each fragile amphipod, each translucent snailfish whispers the same truth. If life can endure here, it can endure anywhere. Pressure, darkness, chemical scarcity, these are not barriers, but canvases. And if Earth's trench can turn such canvases into living murals, why should other worlds be barren? This is why NASA and ESA send missions not just to scan the stars, but to pierce the ice. Probes and landers are designed to sniff the plumes of Enceladus, to bore through Europa's crust, to taste Titan's seas. In their designs, we see the echo of our own submersibles descending into the trench. The abyss is our training ground, the place where we practice asking questions we will one day carry across the solar system. But there is another, deeper resonance. For when we speak of searching for alien life, we often imagine something other different, unrecognizable. Yet the trench reminds us that the alien already lives among us. To see a gulper eel unhinge its jaw, to watch a bioluminescent siphonophore shimmer like a chain of living stars, is to witness strangeness that would seem extraterrestrial were it not beneath our own seas. The line between earthly and alien is not as sharp as we imagine. Perhaps when we find life beyond Earth, it will not shock us with its strangeness. It will feel familiar because we have already met its cousins in the abyss. And so the trench offers not only scientific lessons, but emotional ones. It teaches us how to look for life, with patience, with humility, with imagination. We cannot expect the cosmos to conform to our expectations. We must learn to see life in forms that defy our definitions, to recognize kinship in the most foreign shapes. The trench prepares us for this by showing us creatures that once seemed impossible, yet are undeniably alive. This realization reshapes the very idea of loneliness. For centuries, we have asked whether we are alone in the universe. The abyss suggests a subtler truth. Even if no other intelligence exists beyond us, even if no other civilizations speak across the stars, we are not alone. We are surrounded by beings whose ways of life are as foreign to us as any aliens might be. To acknowledge them is to understand that we already share our planet with the alien. And if life is found beyond Earth, if beneath Europa's ice or within Enceladus's sea something moves, then the trench will stand as its prophecy. It will prove that the principles we observed here are universal, that where there is water or methane or any chemistry of persistence, there can be life. The abyss, in its silence, has been telling us this all along. As the submersible drifts upward through the gloom, carrying these revelations, the darkness seems less empty. It is no longer a void, but a reminder of possibility. Each shadow may conceal not only the memory of Earth's resilience, but the promise of alien endurance. The trench, then, is not only a record of what has been, it is a mirror of what may be. It is Earth's way of saying to the cosmos, life is not an exception, but a rule. And if we dare to listen, we may find that the universe is far more alive than we ever dreamed. The ascent begins slowly. The submersible rises from the trench floor, its lights dimming against the infinite black. For hours, there is nothing, only the steady thrum of machinery and the weight of silence pressing in from every side. Yet in that silence, there lingers the echo of what we have seen. The pale snailfish gliding like a ghost, the amphipods drifting like ancient seeds, the black smokers exhaling their mineral breath. The abyss has spoken, and though we leave it behind, its words cling to us like salt on skin. As the depth lessens, the pressure eases, though invisibly. The walls no longer groan as they did. It is a subtle reminder of fragility, how delicate even our machines are against the vast force of the deep. How delicate we are in the greater scheme. We survive not because we conquer the trench, but because we are allowed passage, like visitors in a cathedral not built for us. And what is it that we carry upward? Not specimens in jars, Not photographs or data alone, but something greater: perspective. The abyss teaches us humility, that life is not defined by sunlight or warmth or by the comforts we take for granted. It teaches us resilience, that survival wears many faces, some transparent, some gelatinous, some almost invisible. It teaches us connection, that Earth's story is not written in chapters of dominance, but in chapters of adaptation, patience, and endurance. With every meter we rise, the darkness lightens, faint and gray at first, like the memory of dawn. And with that pale glow comes reflection. We begin to understand that the abyss is not just a place, but a mirror one that reflects not only the resilience of life, but also the fragility of our own. We imagine the countless ages that have passed, the continents that have shifted, the species that have come and gone. The trench has endured them all, indifferent yet sheltering, a silent witness to the theater of time. And what of us? We who build cities and send rockets skyward, who measure time in centuries, not millennia. The abyss reminds us that we are temporary. Our power, vast as it seems, is fleeting. Yet within that fleetingness lies beauty. For like the snailfish, we too are adapted, not to pressure, not to darkness, but to the fragile band of air and light where we dwell. We too are part of the grand experiment of survival, no less and no more. At last, beams of sunlight pierce the water, thin at first, then widening into shafts that gild the submersible. After hours of blackness, the light seems unreal, too pure to be trusted, and yet it is there, flooding the water with gold. The abyss falls away behind us, its voice muted, its mystery sealed once more beneath the crushing dark. We emerge into the familiar, yet we are not the same. For having seen the trench, we carry its lessons into the light of day. We understand now that life is not fragile, but astonishingly persistent. That the alien is not distant, but all around us. That Earth itself is a cosmos, a universe of wonders still unfolding. And in this realization lies a call, not of conquest, but of care. The abyss has endured countless ages, but it is not immune to us. Our plastic, our waste, our restless expansion have reached even these silent depths. The amphipod's stomach now carries fragments of our refuse. The black waters bear traces of our neglect. To know the abyss is to be responsible for it, to guard the cathedral we have entered, to ensure its hymns are not silenced by our carelessness. So when we surface, breaking through the skin of the ocean into the blaze of daylight, it is not an ending. It is a beginning. The trench has shown us what life can be, what survival means, what resilience truly is. It has shown us that the universe itself may be brimming with possibility. And it has whispered to us, in the language of patience and pressure, that our role is not to dominate, but to listen. The submersible bobs gently in the waves, small against the horizon. The sky stretches endlessly above, as deep in its own way as the waters below. Between these two infinities, the ocean and the cosmos, we float fragile yet enduring, heirs to a story far older and far greater than ourselves. And so the abyss remains with us, not as a memory, but as a presence. A reminder that beneath the surface, in the quiet places, life endures against all odds. A reminder that our world is still filled with mysteries, waiting patiently for us to notice. A reminder that the dark is not empty, but alive. We have touched the trench, and it has touched us. We rise into the light changed, carrying the abyss in our hearts. And in its silence, it has left us with one final truth, that to search the depths is also to search ourselves, and to find within our own fragility the same resilience that binds all living things. The ocean floor is never still. Beneath its apparent silence lies fire, a slow-burning furnace hidden under leagues of water. Here, at the edges where tectonic plates tear the crust apart, the seabed opens to reveal Earth's inner heat. Black smokers' hydrothermal vents erupt like chimneys in a drowned underworld, expelling plumes of mineral-rich water hotter than boiling point, yet never vaporizing, for the crushing pressure forbids it. Their breath is darkness made visible, a billowing smoke of iron and sulfur that stains the sea black. To watch them is to witness a paradox, death and life woven together. The water they release is toxic, laden with metals, acidic enough to dissolve flesh. And yet, around these vents blossoms a riot of existence. Giant tube worms rise in crimson forests. Mussels and clams cluster in silent congregations. Ghostly crabs patrol the mineral spires. All draw their strength not from sunlight, but from chemistry, from the alchemy of vent microbes that feast on sulfur and transmute poison into nourishment. This is not merely survival, it is genesis. For many scientists, black smokers resemble the crucibles of life's first beginnings. In their scalding plumes, complex molecules may have formed, linking and spiraling into the first fragile steps toward biology. These vents are not just refuges of life, they may be its birthplace. And as we peer at them through the eyes of our submersibles, a question stirs like a whisper. Are we looking not only into Earth's past, but into the blueprint of all life everywhere? The vents tower like cathedrals, their mineral chimneys built by the breath of Earth itself. Each one grows as the scorching water mixes with cold seawater, minerals precipitating into stone, stacking year upon year into fragile spires. Some rise taller than houses, fragile yet enduring, crumbling only to be rebuilt again. Around them, entire communities arrange themselves in concentric rings. Closest to the heat, only microbes endure bacteria and archaea that metabolize sulfur and iron, invisible engines of an ecosystem without sun. Beyond them, larger beings thrive, worms whose blood glows with strange pigments, mussels filled with symbiotic bacteria, shrimp with eyes tuned not to light, but to faint traces of heat. These organisms are not passive residents. They are alchemists of survival. Their very bodies rewrite the rules of life, blurring the line between animal and machine, between host and engine. A tube worm, for instance, has no mouth, no stomach. It is hollow, a sheath of flesh-sheltering bacteria that do the work of digestion. It lives not by eating, but by harboring the chemical dream of its microscopic companions. In this way, the vents reveal a truth deeper than science. They show us that life is not an individual struggle, but a partnership. That survival, in its purest form, is collaboration. And in their smoke, we glimpse a story older than humanity, a story that may echo across other worlds. To study black smokers is to study creation under duress. The very conditions that make them hostile, darkness, heat, toxins, are the conditions that force innovation. Every creature here is a testimony to invention born of necessity. This mirrors the grand narrative of life itself. On Earth's early surface, ultraviolet light scorched the airless world. Asteroids rained down fire. Oceans boiled and froze in violent succession. Yet in that chaos, molecules found ways to bind, to fold, to replicate. Life was not born in comfort, it was born in crisis. The vents today are reminders of that origin story, living museums of the Earth that was. And beyond Earth, they are previews. If Europa's buried ocean harbors vents along its rocky floor, then the same chemistry that animates Earth's smokers could kindle life beneath Jupiter's icy moon. If Enceladus's geysers are whispers of vent heat below, then the same alchemy may stir there. To understand black smokers here is to decode the recipe of life elsewhere. Thus, every plume, every mineral grain, every colony of worms is not only a marvel but a message. They tell us that the line between barren and alive is far thinner than we imagine. That life is not a fragile accident, but a consequence waiting to unfold wherever conditions permit. As the submersible hovers near the vent field, the scene is mesmerizing. Billows of black water curl into the dark like smoke rising from an underworld forge. Chimneys glow faintly, painted with minerals that shimmer like jewels when caught in the submersible's lights. Around them, a silent city of creatures pulses with life, each a strange citizen of this submerged kingdom. It feels alien, and yet it is Earth at its rawest, our planet speaking in fire and water, in chemistry and resilience. Black smokers are not anomalies. They are reminders that Earth is alive from core to crust, that our planet is not static but restless, forging and reforging the conditions of survival. In these vents, we glimpse not only the beginnings of life, but its endurance. They remind us that no matter how hostile the future may seem, the essence of survival is already written in our world's fabric. If life can emerge here, in boiling poison under crushing weight, then perhaps it can endure in us too, through whatever trials await. As we drift away, leaving the vent field in darkness once more, the thought lingers. Black smokers are more than chimneys. They are beacon signposts pointing backward to Earth's birth and forward to the possibility of other worlds, alive in their own hidden seas. The ocean holds mirrors, though not of glass or silver. Its mirrors are of silence, of darkness, of pressure. And when we descend into the abyss, when we stand before black smokers belching their chemical breath, we see more than geology, more than biology. We see ourselves. For in these hidden places, stripped of sunlight, stripped of comfort, we discover truths about what it means to endure. The snailfish that thrives where bone should shatter. The tube worm that surrenders its own organs to harbor symbiotic life. The bacteria that turn poison into sustenance. Each of these creatures is not just a curiosity. They are parables, lessons written in flesh and chemistry. And when humanity looks into the abyss, it is not merely out of scientific curiosity, but out of longing. For the trench, the vents, the deep, they remind us of our own fragility. That our survival, too, depends on fragile balances, on partnerships with the unseen, on patience in the face of chaos. The abyss is not only Earth's story, it is a rehearsal for our own. As the submersible hovers in the deep, the reflection is unavoidable. If life can endure here, perhaps we too can endure what lies ahead. The abyss teaches us humility. It reminds us that intelligence, the trait we so often exalt, is but one adaptation among many. A snailfish's softness, a shrimp's heat-detecting eye, a microbe's metabolic trick, each is as remarkable, as valid, as our telescopes and satellites. Life does not rank itself. It only persists. This lesson is urgent, for humanity stands at a threshold. The pressures we face are not crushing columns of water, but the weight of our own choices. Warming climates, acidifying oceans, collapsing ecosystems. In the trench, we see how delicate balance can be, how entire kingdoms depend on vents that may shift or close without warning. And yet we also see resilience and insistence on survival. What if we learned from the abyss not only as scientists, but as students? What if we built our future not on domination, but on adaptation, on partnership, on humility? For if life here can turn poison into nourishment, can we not transform our crises into catalysts? Can we not, too, become alchemists of survival? The abyss is not silent, it is speaking. And its voice is a warning and an invitation. Beyond science, beyond survival, the abyss offers us something rarer: perspective. It stretches the mind to see that we are not the center, not the pinnacle, but one thread in a tapestry woven across billions of years. When we imagine other worlds, Europa, Enceladus, Titan, we often wonder, will we find life? But perhaps the deeper question is, how will we see it? Will we recognize it, honor it, understand it not as lesser or greater, but as kin? The abyss has already given us that practice. To look at a siphonophore glowing like a chain of stars, or a worm blooming scarlet in the dark, is to encounter the alien without leaving Earth. To study them is to prepare ourselves for the day when, perhaps, we meet true strangers among the stars. And yet, even if that day never comes, even if Earth is the only world where life has taken hold, the abyss reminds us that we are already part of something miraculous. For in the trench, we glimpse the improbable truth that matter, through patience and pressure, through chaos and chance, has learned to feel, to breathe, to dream. We are not separate from that miracle. We are its continuation. The submersible ascends for the final time. The vents vanish into shadow. The trench recedes. The water lightens until at last the surface breaks open and the sky floods in. The journey is over, yet it lingers, imprinted like a second heartbeat. Above, the horizon stretches. Below, the abyss waits. Between them, we drift, fragile yet enduring, heirs to a story written in pressure and stone, in darkness and light. What does the abyss leave us with? Not despair, but wonder. Not fear, but reverence. It tells us that life is more resilient than we imagine, more adaptable than we believe. It tells us that survival is not about strength, but about change. It tells us that the universe, whether or not it holds other voices, is already filled with marvels beyond measure. And so we carry the abyss with us, not as emptiness, but as fullness, as a reminder that the unknown is not our enemy, but our teacher. We do not conquer it. We listen to it. We do not own it. We belong to it. The last wave rocks the submersible as it floats beneath the sky. Somewhere below, in darkness eternal, the vents still breathe. The snailfish still drifts. The amphipods still rise and fall like dust motes in a beam of unseen light. The abyss does not need us, but we need it to remind us who we are and who we might yet become.